As Trick Williams will always say, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Now, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Now, one of the big matches at WrestleMania 42 will be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Belt. And conventional wisdom would say, okay, these are two big superstars who come from big powerhouse wrestling families who were in a faction before, were a tag team triple threat before, with a guy that we can't really name right now. But they got the history.
He was found not guilty. He was found not guilty. Not innocent, but not guilty.
Yeah, court of public opinion still out there somewhere. But for a few weeks, Randy Orton was on the phone talking to somebody, and everybody's like, who could a phone call be? Who could this phone call be? Who could it be that person on the other side? Turns out it was none other than Pat McAfee. And everybody was pissed. Everybody was upset. And it's been reported that the promo that Cody Rhodes delivered after it was revealed to be Pat McAfee was totally unscripted. The question is, overall, how did you feel when you found out or when you saw that Pat McAfee was behind those phone calls to Randy Orton?
I felt like that something fell through the floor. There was no way that he was the idea from the start. There's no way. I took him at face value months ago when he said that he wasn't sure the next time that he would pop up in WWE, and I think that this was the consequence of something falling through. It just so happens that on April Fool's Day, a new motion was added into the Janelle Grant Vince McMahon case that kind of brought everything back up to the forefront. So if that was their idea to try and get Vince back into the mix, clearly they thought that it was no longer feasible. If that wasn't the case, then I just don't know. I don't know who the idea was, but it almost certainly was not Pat McAfee. And that episode of SmackDown was taped. It was in St. Louis. For whatever reason, for one of those reasons, that crowd was dead. Like the hate and the boos were coming from online. In that arena, so they were hands underneath their butts in their chairs. They could not care less. And this is supposed to be like a huge new wrinkle into a match that does not need it. And now, people were making allusions to McAfee being the Rodman to Orton's Hogan. And you can't say anything bad about Rodman because he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. So instead, Cody comes back out and says that you're Disco Inferno, who Cody Rhodes has famously had issues with in recent years. I cannot say for sure yet whether this is going to be helpful. So far, it is not. And everything felt empty. Everything from Pat talking about how everything sucks and how the Attitude Era, I used to be that person 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. And that's when the Attitude Era we were departed from the Attitude Era less than 10 years before that. We're going almost like 30 years almost since the start of the Attitude Era. That's like if during the Attitude Era, you're like, what was the best ever? Buddy Rogers. I need some more Buddy Rogers in my life. How about some Ivan Koloff? This cannot be the excuse anymore in 2026. that we need to go back to the Attitude Era. That was a time, and it was a fantastic time. But if you're not trying to live in the here and now and trying to make the here and now as best as you can, especially since 4 years ago, you had that in the original Bloodline and other storylines that fed into that with Kevin Owens or Drew McIntyre, et cetera, et cetera. So they have got to bat 1,000 with Pat McAfee from here on out. Otherwise, I can't really excuse his insertion into this unless there is something around the bend to make this better.
I thought the same thing too, in a sense of it seemed like Pat McAfee was like a substitute for something. Like it could have been somebody else that was way up. I was seeing that online too. Like they was trying to like sneak Vince back in there, push Vince back in there. Hell, I thought it was because remember Cody and Stephanie McMahon had a promo too on Raw, and I it could have been.
You're not your father. I almost would have wished it had been Stephanie. Like everyone, it would have been after Monday. It would have been kind of like almost an obvious thing to happen. But I think it would be better than this. Like it makes more sense. Like Stephanie, what is the ultimate? Her actual character, ultimate heel. You think she wouldn't align herself with someone who's punted her in the head like 15 years ago? Yes, she would. Yes, she would.
And another name that I was seeing on X that everybody wish it was Kevin Owens, which would kind of make sense in a way that last time him and Cody was going at it, he was talking about, Cody taking Cody off the mountain and like was complaining about how Cody was getting these pushes time and time again. So I feel like Pat McAfee just a victim of circumstances. Like you said, they got to use him greatly, especially I think in a match where he has to cause some sort of interference or get a receipt from Cody.
I will say, instead of just being an absolute negative Nancy on this, I think the one thing that helps in the meantime is that Pat does know how to act in the ring. Those kicks to Cody looked like, worked kicks, nice worked kicks. Cody made reference to the fact that Pat was an NFL punter, probably Hall of Fame caliber. There's stuff to make sense of this, and Pat can work in the ring, can clearly work on the microphone. But there is something missing that needs to be even added to this, that where the addition might not have been really worthwhile, that I don't think would have been necessary if it was Randy and Stephanie.
Yeah. I had an idea just now. What if they reveal Pat McAfee as part of TKO's board? Or some way affiliate like directly with TKO. They would kind of like salvage the story, because last time we saw Pat McAfee, he was a commentator. So like, what kind of stock does he have in who's champion when your job is just to, talk about the action in the ring? So like, what if, they took me out of commentating, they said like, I could be this guy that can invoke my vision going forward on the TKO board. They have something like that going.
Pat is not a poor man, as we know. He is substantially rich. He has had a relationship with ESPN now for some time, which now has a relationship with WWE, therefore TKO. That would be smart, and I'll tell you why in a way, is that over the decades, it's okay to have baby faces. It's okay to have heels. It's even good to have heel referees. It is not good for the promotion or the promoter to be the heel. It has only worked in two manners that happened at the same time that almost fed off each other. Mr. McMahon and Eric Bischoff joining the NWO. It's the only times that it's ever worked. And that was a special circumstance that is never to be repeated again. There is a level of separation between, hopefully, if Triple H is willing to play the face, because he got booed out of Washington, D.C. I'll tell you that. He was a heel that night when John Cena got beat. Hopefully people have kind of cooled off over the last few months. But if there's a degree of separation between Triple H as a creative force in WWE, and then you find out that TKO has actually hired on, let's say, Pat McAfee to be what the UK would call the shadow creative force. Something like that they can get over. This arrangement where Triple H actually didn't realize that he was being puppeteered from on high. I think that could work.
I personally like Pat McAfee's energy and everything. I also agree that he does not make sense right now until they justify it going down the line, and they don't have a lot of time to do that. So we'll see what happens with that program. But let's go to another match that's been made official recently, involving looks like one of our favorite guys to talk about, Trick Williams, and one of your favorite guys to hate, Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn pulled a fast one on us, took the title, U.S. title from Carmelo Hayes. Trick Williams, Sami Zayn was already in play. I seen this coming from a mile away. I seen this coming since since Trick Williams cut that promo saying his breath smelled like bounce that ass. So we have that now. The popular opinion is people think this is going to be a double turn because Trick Williams is over or over-ish, if you want to put it that way, and Sami Zayn has been building up frustration as far as like his character on screen about him not being inserted into like the top tier of WWE, and the title's on the line, and this could be a situation where WWE puts that rocket on Trick Williams' back, give him the title, let him go on the run, and Sami Zayn, double turn. Now, since this match is official, do you really see 100% a double turn happening at Mania? And also with that, do you see Trick Williams taking the title, U.S. title, this early in his roster call up?
Yes and yes. You have heard me advocate it has had to been more than a year that Sami Zayn needs to be a heel. And this is the perfect time. And they very much seem to be laying the groundwork for it. And I can see Trick wins the match. Zayn puts the beat down on him to such a degree that it forces Carmelo to come out and save Trick Williams. Therefore, very specifically and intentionally making them both babyface, hopefully together again, because they were great in NXT. If not, right next to each other, then at least aligned in a very intentional way. And that Sami is going to be, a bottom-feeding heel that he needs to be. Because right now it's not cutting it. Unless it was to lay the groundwork. It makes no sense for Sami to have taken that title from Carmelo. So I'm hoping, you get the crowd behind the babyface that got screwed over. That is old as time. And so you have this babyface over here who got screwed over. And you've got this, at least in the character, Trick Williams, thinks he's hot crap and will say whatever he wants, do whatever he wants. And usually characters that wear the clothes like that and say the things that he does is not a babyface. But when he put him in a situation like with Sami Zayn on the grandest stage of them all, with the United States Championship on the line, and Sami tries to do the same crap, trying to screw over new talent, this, that, and the other. Make it work. Please, please, please make it work. The double turn has to be the hardest booking technique in history. It's hard. But I think the groundwork has been laid. And I think it can work.
I think either way, a Sammy heel turn, the trigger has to be pulled on that at WrestleMania. To me, I don't see Trick Williams as a good baby face. And even Trick Williams has said this in the past, that he prefers to toe the line. He prefers to be in the middle and just pivot babyface, being the heel. And I think that works out well for him. I like his character so far. I like that, he's this superstar among stars, and his interest, the code and everything. I think it works for him. I don't want WWE to turn him into what they did with Jey Uso, where you just remember him for whoop that trick and not him on the mic, not him in the ring. And then also I do want Carmelo Hayes to play a part in the decision of whoever wins this match. Well, I don't know who he's going to cost, because technically Trick Williams cost him the title. Technically. But also with your whole thing with Sami Zayn just finding some sort of way to worm himself into some sort of story and try to get to WrestleMania, and he used Carmelo Hayes in that sense. I can see something like Trick Williams pulls the upset, right? Quote unquote. Wins the title. Sami Zayn beats him down afterwards in frustration. Chair shot, whatever. Melo runs out, makes the save. You got this kind of like alliance with these two. And I think Melo and Trick on to face each other down the line. But right now, I want them on the same side. Then Sammy in heel fashion could pull somebody in, maybe like Dragunov, because Dragunov and Melo got some. That story is going to be ongoing, and I want to see more matches of that. So that's why I want to see play out. How you feel about that?
I think step by step, that's how it should happen with that match and how it ends. Like I said earlier, I think especially with you saying that, Trick really wants to just toe the line, kind of be an anti-hero kind of thing, instead of being side by side like they were in NXT. Kind of have them be allies of convenience. Like it or not, WWE really does play into the comedy a lot. Been that way forever. And I think there can be some funny moments between a straight-faced acting Carmelo, like as a babyface, trying to get along again with Trick Williams, who's full of himself. Even though Carmelo is the one coming out to, I am him. It's always good when you've got a baby face with a little bit of ego and another one, even if he's towing the line, with a little bit of ego, and see how they can get along. I say more like, I think maybe putting Sammy with Aleister Black would be interesting.
I'm gonna say that I'm a fan of Aleister Black. I wish he was a little bit higher up on the priority list. I like his ring work. I like his image. I like his black mask. His black mask finisher is awesome.
That kick is wild. Like, if you want to talk about the match I want to see, is actually, and this would force Ilya Dragunov to keep being a face. I would love to see a program between Ilya Dragunov and Aleister Black. The thing with Aleister is that he needs some work on the microphone, and it's always been that way. Not everyone's a natural talent on the mic, but what helped The Undertaker a lot that people kind of gloss over is that when he did start turning the character into a direction where The Undertaker talked more, he knew how to talk. The Undertaker always knew how to talk. And that is a problem with Damian Priest. It's a problem with Aleister Black. Put those two in a long-running program like they have been, and it's a recipe for disaster. So, yeah, who knows?
Yeah. I never.
Now you put Damian with R-Truth. Like,
I never liked Damian as I don't like his babyface script. Like when he says those type of
if they're going to use R-Truth again to turn someone heel, I'm for it. Just that's an easy way to make someone a heel. Beat up R-Truth beat up Danhausen. That's a great way right now to just automatically become a heel.
I like Danhausen. I really like Danhausen. But I am also waiting on the day that somebody whoop his ass.
Well, then they are cursed.
like before he says it, like he just get hit in the mouth or something. Like,
oh yeah, right like before he says cursed.
Coming. Yeah,
well, and like that's the coming. Thing. That's the thing. He has a thing that it was kind of emphasized like his very first night or whatever. But one of his big things is like he carries around like a jar of teeth. You know, you could make a whole thing about someone just punching him right in the teeth before he says cursed. So,
but going back to Trick and Sammy, I think we both agree that Trick should win the match and be U.S. champion. I don't know for how long, but he definitely should win that match.
I think it can be for a bit. You know, when you think of the U.S. titles on SmackDown, who are we looking at? We're looking at Carmelo. We're looking at, I think Ilya is still on SmackDown. You know, Aleister Black. You know, Sammy. Other than that, like Damien is not in the U.S. title picture. He's you know, the tag team champion. So yeah. I think that there's a way for them to keep things going because, you know, on the other side, you know, maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't. You know, the Intercontinental title picture is like so up in the air that they just stuck 5 people in a ladder match. So who knows?
Let's go to this last kind of new match that's been added to WrestleMania, which just happened very quickly. Again, this is definitely the victim of circumstances here with Gunther and Seth Rollins. And it seemed like to me, Gunther has painted Seth Rollins as one of the guys in this run of WWE, like this era. Like he's been that top guy. You know, he's not retiring Seth Rollins. It's like he wants to kind of like take his place in that sense. Now, I'm expecting a damn good match between these two. We talking about these two are two of the best in the ring that we've seen in quite some time. But my thing is, should this be a one-off match at Mania, or should this be something going forward, a whole feud, a whole program going forward? How you think this should play out?
I think it should be a one-off because I don't think the money is in, you know, a long-running, even a pay-per-view feud into Backlash. Maybe that, because that's what Backlash is for. Historically, Backlash was always almost to try and be like the recompense for the person who lost at WrestleMania. You know, so a lot of the matches at Backlash were rematches. But to go any longer than like a month out of WrestleMania, I wouldn't with Gunther and Seth, because I think the money is in Seth and the Vision. I think they're being pretty quiet about the timeline for Bronson and Braun, but I think one of them will be back sooner than the other. And if it's Braun, then the money is in Braun and Seth. But for WrestleMania, you've heard me say before, WrestleMania is the place where you can set up something short and it'll work because it's WrestleMania. It's the grandest stage of them all. And you want to see that match. You want to see Gunther and Seth Rollins. Do you want to see Gunther and Seth Rollins 2 months from now? Probably not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this should be something that's short and sweet. They don't really have nothing to say to each other. It's like this is like a fancy booking, like as far as like the match itself, but not a whole program where, you know, they get on the mic, they, you know, go at it, verbal jousting, and, you know, we have our match and physicality and all that. This is not a good pairing for that. Just straight up wrestle. I think Gunther is going to win, and he should. WWE got him kind of like in a weird place right now where they got to make sure the loss makes sense and they got to continue justifying him tapping out John Cena, retiring AJ Styles, which became two unpopular decisions amongst fans. But if they go at Backlash, it's telling me that Braun Breaker is going to come back, because I think the story is out there is like he's not medically clear, but he's like almost there. He's progressing, and I could see where Gunther, he wins at WrestleMania. Seth wants that rematch. They had that rematch. Braun Breaker interferes. Gunther wins again, but Seth goes after Braun Breaker.
And I think it's the match worth having between two people who should remain in the orbit of the World Heavyweight Championship. And to me, that also means being in the orbit of CM Punk. So anyone, be it Roman Reigns, be it Gunther, be it Seth Rollins, if they stay in that orbit, then that could be the thing going forward, as, you know, you face one, then the other, and then someone else. But it's like, it all still makes sense. I think you'll see that Seth and Gunther will be heavily involved with the World Heavyweight Championship picture up to SummerSlam, but I don't think that's the feud. I think it's going to be whoever wins between CM Punk and Roman Reigns. But whoever wins between CM Punk and Roman Reigns, especially if it's Roman Reigns that wins, is still going to be in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. I would honestly love to see a fatal four-way between Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Gunther, and Seth Rollins. But we didn't get that.